رقص زنبور همزو بزو همزو چه زاده رقص یه زور منم angry wasp زنبوری سوخته بچه شالی چقدر سوخته ای زنبور چیز میخه Okay, chapter 9. In a hollow in the vicinity of Kokand, where the inhabitants of the southern part of the city cultivated rice. The نزدیک کوکند یک منطقه اونجی چاول کشت میشد برنج. There were in those days warm lakes, بندای آو، گرم آو, which received their waters from hot underground sources. این همون چشمهشی آوی گرمه. Springtime here began a full week earlier. حتی که بهار یک week پیش شروع شده اینجا، یک هفته پیش. The gardens on the hillside all around would still be black, while the lakes were green and blossoming, warmed by the sun from above and the hot springs from below. It may be gathered therefrom that Father Torakhon had wisely chosen this depression for his tomb, since it gave him a whole week in which to make his diverse tailoring, boot making, toy making, and halwa cooking preparations. اینجی تورخون منطقه را پیدا کرده تمام برنامه ریزی خورا گیفت و کالا و تمام چیز را اینمی اینجی جور مکرد. It was a quiet side. از پیش کی بهار شونه و او شاو بورا منی کولا هر کدام را حساب شد بندازه. His humble tomb was decorated with only 2 black horse tails. دومی اسبی سیاه در مزار شه. اونمو decoration جه. Fastened to poles at the entrance. دو دنه میت چوب استه ولیز دو دنه دومی سیاهی اسب. All round stood clumps of gnarled old elms, درختای elm, whose lower branches were hung with a motley fringe of silk ribbons. ولی درختان silk ribbon بس داشته ہے. الديكوريشن مزاري Father Torakhona, brought hither by the saints' worshippers. و غيريار کی بس تکتا بدا ونا د مو دوست دارای از saint کی ممدا بدا بری اظهار عقیدت بستا مکدا بدا. The vast number of these ribbons bore evidence that the memory of him was still green in the hearts of all Muslims. एक कदरी मारूफ बुदा वलीउल्लाह है दिखे. Khoja Nasreddin dismounted Tashut before the tomb Ruiburi Mazar and reverently saluted Torakhon. بسیار عقیدت के साथ, whom he sincerely venerated. خیلی دوست داشت را. Father Torakhona خیلی دوست داشت و احترام شیر میکرد. His one-eyed companion lagged far behind. اون پس مانده. He was crawling along the road on his knees. از رود که شروع میشه تا مزار را. او پس از خاطر مانده که او بلی زانو در او را رفته رهیند. بلی پاینا. Sprinkling dust upon his head and wailing. اور خاک باد کرده بری خود خور ویه کده رهیه. Oh, merciful Torakhon, Raham, forgive me in the name of Allah. His patient plaint could barely be heard through the elm trees. صدای زود از من درختایش نیامد, لیکن او اینمی داستان داشت که زاری مکد که برای خدا مربو بخش. The tomb keeper came forth, an old man, پیر مردی که in rags, کالای میله, with a face as yellow and wrinkled as a dried apricot. یعنی کشته از چی جور میشه؟ از زردالو. اونمو زردالو که زرد شده باشه اونمو تو زرد شده فقط بگی نان ادام اخرایی. But with eyes in which lurked a hidden flame. مگر چمایشم تو روشن چمای فقط بگو ایو شم داغا درو نزی. A black warped worm-eaten door, یک دروازه سیاه که بیخی ورا دماغ خورده of carved wood was opened کم بلیشی carving هم شده and a musty ancient odor issued from the cool semi-darkness هم در نیم طریق است ور یک گمی در بوی بسیار کهنه که در بینی آدم نمیزده یک جای مثلا مرطوب تر خاک ازو قد جول مول ازو که گم در درک مایی در بوی در بینی تمیزده A peculiar odor that sank into one's soul یک اوتر بویی که فقط بگی در روح تو داخل مشاهد Khoja Nasreddin took his boots off, put on the soft slippers which the old man obligingly offered him. سرپایی پیششت. ای بوتای خطرناک اور برکت بزم سرپایی پیششتی مرد که. And entered the tomb. The مزار داخل شد. The white walls of rough-hewn stone, bare of any decoration or painting. سفید دیوال هیچ چیزم بلش نیه. Supported a dome with two narrow latticed windows. Dudana mtrezga kilkin. Two thin blades of light stabbed the semi-darkness. Misliki azamzu dudana shamshir daram damanem tariki azamzu dudana kilkin. Roshanai ramaga. A raised stone path, which an qadam bal, 2 cubits wide. Duqarish. Ran from the entrance to the headstone. And on both sides of it, the floor was covered with grey-green dust. Grey-green dust, which is badastam rangi sauz khagistri, which had accumulated there for ages. This dust, in accordance with custom, mutabiqi riwayat, was preserved untouched. Good. To leave one's footprints upon it was considered an act of desecration. Agar yagukas naqshi qadam shi bile zu basha magaw chi qadar be ihtirami kadai ki budai paida huira. Ijaza nasta. It was so quiet in the tomb, iqadar sukut and khamoshi the dakhil mazar, that Khoja Nasreddin could hear the sound of his own blood pumping in his ears. Sadai raft ahmad khun khudra mishnavid. He advanced towards the shrine. Taraf maqbara. Pesh ahmad bent over it, khamshut, and kissed the stone under which rested one of the kindest hearts. Usangai mazara machkat ki zir zukhag nazanin dili ki de jahan paida na masham zukhaw buda that had ever throbbed in the world. Iraqam dil diga ej natapida de dunya. Iqdar rahim dil ej de rui zamin natapida. Oh, merciful Torahon, will I ever be able to atone for my sin? The wailing voice of the one-eyed now sounded near at hand. And a moment later, he crawled. His head was grey with dust. Such poor khag. His flat face scratched and bleeding. Because zakham ruish qad ruikham dkhaw kada kira kem khizida khizidanda. Da hale tawba mitr bayt bi khizik tu bayt zakham shuni khun shuni puras khag ruitu tamam janto. He flung himself face downwards upon the tombstone and lay there still and silent. I'm khod khud bale do qabr ke andakh. Ana munji faqat bigi murd. Khoja Nasreddin went out. Leaving him alone with Torahon. An hour passed by. Then a second was 2 saat ter shud. But the one-eyed came not forth from the tomb. از او هیچ خبری نیست. هنوز زانو منجیه. Khoja Nasreddin waited patiently. صبر. حوصله. Sitting on a worn old rug. یک قالینی که بیخی دیگه ده ختمه دیگه. In the shade of an elm and conversing with the old tomb keeper about dervishhood. بس قد زو نگهبان مزار متششتا مگه خو چیه درویشی چیز خیلاتای and its advantages over other modes of life و ای از حوالای دیگه لایف ستایل است از او چی خوبی داره تو که درویشی رو اختیار کنی چی فایده داره to have not قناعت نخواستن زهد دست برداشتن نمیخوایم thank you مهربانی to have not, to desire not. خلاص که the do short Nasreddin Augar to strive after not که تو دیده بوداوی جهان را که سیل نپشتی حرس و حواس نه مگه یعنی میته قراره نه کدو to fear not what fear? Fear of whom? Least of all physical disillusionment. یکی مثلا ما فانیم physically استی با کل شده از بعد با کل میشه. The old man was saying, how else can one live in this sorrowful world where lie is heaped upon lie? دیگه چی رقم میخوای دزی جهانی دروغ زندگی کنی که دروغ بل دروغ fake بل fake نقلی بل نقلی and where all swear that they desire to help one another تمام قسم خورده که مو بالکل مو برادری مکنی مو help یک دیگر مکنی but merely help one another to die فقط کمک دو تیمی که تو مردنی باشه خیلی اتفاق موجوده 20 نفری 30 نفری 40 نفری 100 نفری جمع شده در گورستان در قبر الله باید نان بخورید باید فاتحه بخوانید باید دیگه تیم زندگی باید بشنید مگه نه ما اینجی مورم مگه ما اونجی مورم مگه دمیت زندگی دمیت جهان تو چطور میخوای زندگی کنی حتی غیر از درویشی در مرگ یک دیگه راضی قسم خوردن قسم مخورن هر روز که ما بالکل همدردی میکنیم ما برادریه تا فلانی از بیم دروغ مگه توم دروغ مگه زای That is not life همی زندگیه but the bodiless shadow of it یک سایه بی بدن protested Khoja Nasreddin. Life is a struggle, not a burying of oneself alive. زندگی خود تپیش تپیدن است. این نیست که تو بوری خود دگور کنی در افسردگی پلٹ کده منده. Life is a struggle, not a burying of oneself alive. Insofar as the outward embodied life is concerned, این زندگی ظاهری که تو میبینی مگید رو. Your words, wayfarer, are perfectly true. بالکل. تو سالیک استی تو خود درویش استی تو خود ولی تورخان زندگی را اینجا قربان کده بالکل صحیح فرمودی از جهان که من میبینم تعلقات که جهان society اجتماع perfectly true the old man said but there is also such a thing as an inner spiritual life باطن کی زندگی بچه the only attribute of ours over which no one has any power اختیار هیچ کس دمو جای نمیچلا man must choose آدم باید انتخاب کنه between lifelong slavery که همیشه تو بند برده دیگه غلام نفس man must choose و که آدم مگه خود خود باید انتخاب کنه باید فرق پیش دودون کمات باید یک چیزا انتخاب کنه یک lifelong slavery عمر بر تو غلام مندنی and freedom دیگهش که تو آزاد میشی which is attainable only in the inner life و او آزادی و او خلاصی صرف از درون امکان داره and only by dint of utter self-renunciation. از خود خوب باید بری تو. تیر شدی، تیر بایی. خود رفتگی. Have you found it? Yes, since I have renounced the outward trappings of this world, I no longer lie. چرا که ما از این زندگی ظاهری و تعلقات چون که ما از او trappings خود را فارغ کردم I no longer lie. پس مجھے دروغ بولنے کی ضرورت نہیں ہے اور cringe یا چسپیدوں کی ضرورت نہیں ہے اور fun. For I have not that can be taken from me. ما چیز دروم کس گیرم بیگرم ما غمگین چنم بایی ما already گفتم ما نمیخوایم مرا تیر unless it be my corporal old life. او جایی که مثلا کونا که ما تاول را نکدادم اونمو حساب کتاب زور ما دادنی هستم لیکن امو زمان که ما گفتم مرا تیرم زی I'm fine بایی. Let them take it. Indeed, it is of slight value to me. Here is the shrine of Torakhon. The mullah love it not. The guards almost molest his worshippers. But as you see, I fear not to serve him openly and unselfishly. مگا ملام کتیر مشایا اگدنا فتوا بلیزی میدیا هر کس که دینج مایا اگر وہ ای طلایا می سپاهی کستا اون سوٹا که دیدیش چه مردمان عذاب نکتینج نارید کافرید شما. But I fear not to serve him openly and unselfishly because simply it gratifies my heart to do so. دل کی کہانی آتا ہے that you do is unselfishly. I see by your raiment, observed Khoja Nasreddin, indicating the old man's indescribably tattered robe, motley with patches and frayed to ribbons around the hem, as if it were sewn from the same strips of stuff and ribbons that decked the trees around the tomb. I ask but little from life. The old man resumed, this ragged garment, a drink of water, a piece of barley bread cake, that is all. But my freedom is forever for me, for I carry it within my soul. Far be it from me to wish to offend you, worthiest of old men, but any dead person is freer than you, since he demands not from life whatever, not even a drink of water. Must the road to freedom necessarily be the road to death? از رقم که تو کمی که داره زهد اختیار کرده که ما نمیخوایم درویشی به معنای نگیشن و نه خوردو نه رفتو نه هم تعلقات این تو خب مرده است تمام زیاد آزاده دیگه خوجا نصرالدین ده باین مایه واقعی راست مگه او هیچ چیز نمیخواست تمام آزاد خب مرده دیگه مگر این رای death چرا Must the road to freedom necessarily be the road to death? To death, that I know not, but to loneliness, yes. The old man paused, then added with a sigh, I have long been lonely. That is not true, rejoined Khoja Nasreddin. I hear in your speeches the voice of charity, compassion, love of mankind. Your compassion awakes an answering echo in the hearts of a multitude. Therefore, you cannot be lonely upon this earth. A living man can never be lonely. People are not lonely, they are united. Therein lies one of the profoundest truths of our joint existence. Manadarai, we are not alone, we are one. Fond dreams, fancies from the cold, the winds, and rain, people defend themselves by walls, from the harsh truth by dreams and fancies. Defend yourself, wayfarer, defend yourself, for life's truth is frightful. To haqra mein khaya qad tajruba kani, defend yourself. Defend myself, Nay, venerable sir, I do not stand on the defensive, I attack. Always and everywhere I attack. In whatever guise the world's evil may present itself. And if I am fated, agar naseeb bud, to fall in the struggle, no one shall say that I fled the field. Temi jihad agar tu mar paida kani, hich kas guftana mitane girar eladat. Bayrutu chance ra. And my weapon shall pass into another hands. Of that I shall take good care. Ki shamsher bas ma waqt rafto tawil kidanim karta yer jari vel. Na tegra. Tughbanakni. Inda faqat tirkamo. Khoja Nasreddin's ardent speech was interrupted by the appearance of the one-eyed, who came forth from the vault. His countenance was pale and subdued. Tazaz khud maqbara burshda. Du saat ter kada inji da tawba u istighfar. While he was performing the ablution at the cistern, the old man related. Raft bari wuzu kado. Guft every year Guftani badbakht arsal al mijmaya. Every year that unfortunate man plants a rose, cutting. Yak shakhle gulab mayra outside the tomb, buroi mazar, in the hope that it will strike roots. Rishakana minji. And this will serve him as a sign of grace. But as yet, not a single cutting has taken root. Salha maya arsal the now sal ki maya mujhe krishna. The tears came into my eyes at the sight of that man. You have rightly divined in me a feeling of compassion for my fellow men. O wayfarer, I have rid myself of selfishness. Tu imroz mardara urdi. Ma muftama tanaim ma zindagi khalqa tamam se bezar und mas khalq bezari tu mar najat dadi tu dil mar rahm urdi. Ay salik. Tu darai waqan. I have rid myself of selfishness. खुद पसंदी से मैंने साफ कर लिया खुद को. Vanity, khantumai, covetousness, hirs, gluttony and fear. Khawfo, shahwat, ya purkhori, but of compassion. I cannot rid myself. Az meherbani, majan khalas namitawani. Allah has given me a soft heart. And it will not harden. The one-eyed during that time was occupied with his own affairs. He took from out of his garment a cutting wrapped up in a damp piece of cloth. And loosening the earth with his knife, stuck it into the ground in front of the entrance of the tomb. It will not take root. Khoja Nasreddin whispered to the old man, that is not the way to plant. Irqam khurishayed nana Nasreddin is daram gawu amuz manich zekh burna kam thara masta. Shakhli gulabra. Bazamu misala mukaramana wardushta date dar wuzu migra Khoja Nasreddin am jesta bas Khoja sunazi ishara na sunazi pir martika sunazi darvesh muge urqam kai risha migra ich rqam milgan nadara isay raqam namishan nadara gulabra. It will not take root, Khoja Nasreddin whispered to the old man. That is not the way to plant. Haply it will, Mushabakhair. The old man answered, I shall tend it with water thrice during the day. Masjida fayir awam midam bakhairim da fayir shana. Belki insana khair kana bhai. Khoja Nasreddin perceived tears glistening in the corners of the old man's eyes. Ma'awmi timidi imdafa baydi kishchu nahi gulam. Badbakht chudi cha sala mayan mitr mora khushk mora. Their business at the tomb was done. Taking leave of the old keeper, our wayfarers quitted the shady coolness of Torakhon's elm grove. از باغچه تورخون کار از نشد تمام، اینا رفت دوباره در سری راه. Koken met them with clouds of hot dust. یعنی میتر خاکبار. کوکن در آمد clouds of hot dust and the press and surge of the crowd at the city gates. درگاه شهرم تبال واز نشد ای نقی قشاگا خار والا کرخ بیش گرفته و سبزی والا هم سبزی آورده که دار شهر در بیانه، چون که وقت شهر دروازه شی تقریبا یک خاص وقت صبح واز شد که مردم از هر چیز که کاروبار داره باید سودا کنه، بسن پس در قریه خبر کس دیگه. The great spring bazaars were beginning and the gates were besieged with incomers. Outside the city wall lay pitched a colorful humming camp with awnings of rush mats, with tents of horse cloth, with taverns and chaykhanas during a roaring trade. बाजार की सदा से रही बुद्धि की चाय खाना है कि नमी जनम रफ्ता आमादा मुसाफिर आया. In shallow holes along the roadsides sat beggars. Gadaigaram jama, as dry and yellow as the parched earth around them. Onmur kham zardu khagistri misli ke mukhag ki girt barshne misli mzulli. They looked like an outgrowth of the earth. قلوخ يعني رقم مثل قلوخاش تد انت قد ايقرام تسخ جدد بخي رنگ ونگيش هم پرس خاك خد بگي از خاك هم قلوخ برشده برو آدم معلوم مشه. As if rising from it or on the contrary slowly sinking into it. یا بهتری بگم که آهسته آهسته قلوخا درو سن خاك رهی ہے. یک جمله complete کائنات رگا بشی مزنا. And a little to one side jesters utarafi tamasha festival ya bazaar was jesters latifa goy unamidonam bale stage performance snake charmers mishtan snake charmers chiz magada azirgi chiz snake charmer margir nam tkinamna tunai de atai chizara kho the video basha. Snake charmers, dancing girls, rope walkers and such like ravishers of Muslim hearts plied their mean trades amid the hideous din of drums, the blare of brass, trumpets and raucous shrieking of pipes. Sarsadar shinidin az melara above this multi-tongued clamorous crowd, in a pale shimmering sky, hung a blazing sun. Flat. أنا منجي مرسل ناديجا. Dull وده وقت كي حرف ده جاي خشيشت أنا منجي بس ترمي مشان أنا. Above this multi-tongued, clamorous crowd in a pale, shimmering sky, hung a blazing sun, flat, dull, as best khagbada, we could dull today, malum say namsha, and beamless. Shwaish is namersa. The dust was everywhere. It flew upon the wind, gritted on your teeth, got into your nose, and eyes and ears. Khoja Nasreddin, who was a great lover of spectacles, lost no time. Tamashara ki dit sahib guftala ki borim ki chik sahin. With a bread cake in one hand, kulcha mein ek dishi, and his skull cap, koleshi filled with ripe cherries in the other. He went about through the fair, Bazaar, Mela, Tirshut, starting his round with the jugglers. Rough pieces of jugglers, ki tamasha nishan nahi mita mukhtalif shobada. He tarried before a dark-skinned, dried-up old man. Khush kamitar thira, skin dara, paluyam jestashut, with a red mark over the bridge of his nose. Bali bridge of his nose ek red mark hai. the sign of his tribe. Ego khas qabila hai, with eyes downcast. Chimaishamthaya, the Hindu was playing softly and plaintively on a reed pipe. Bansuri bajaye re, bansuri bajaye re. While before him, completely under the spell of his pipe, two lips, two serpents, swayed their bodies slowly and drowsily. His lips still on the pipe, he laid the two serpents, each separately, into a deep basket with a tight cover, and not until he had done that did he give his benumbed lips a rest. After the tuneful pipe, how sinister was the hard rustle that came from within the baskets. Amuki naik khalashud. Bas sarsada azmani zuki mamad. Halimunji khatarnak situation. How soul-chilling the ominous hissing that rose to a malevolent whistle. From overhead came the faint roll of a drum. Azbal azdurum sadai dol memad. Up there, at a dizzy height, a little man naked to the waist in wide red trousers that billowed out in the wind glided along a thin stretched rope. He squatted and stood up erect, tossed his pole into the air, grift, and caught it again, contriving the while with one hand to beat a small drum. That hung in front of him from his girdle. Below was the buzzing, surging crowd. The reeking dust surcharged with the odor of sweat, dung, and the greasy fumes of the cook shops. While he was all alone up there, in the heavenly heights, companioned by the wind, separated from death by the flimsy thread of his rope. منظر کشی آتا ہے کہ دکودا مالا او نفر کس بله رسمان در ورام ورا یک دیدیش یک دنه دولا دیدیش چوبا دتایش کس کباب و گوی گاو نمیدونم بویایش هم از بال زبیته د بینیش زده ریا بعدم خوب تیز مگری زبیته میتر روانه نصرالدین هم دمزی دیگه بسیار خوشه بچه. Nearby, ای طرف سیلکین, stood the white tents of dancing girls. Around one of them was a noticeable stir. And Khoja Nasreddin hastened thither to join the throng. Two strapping Dungans with pitch black plate falling down their waists, decoration deftly rolled out of the tent a flat drum the width of a millstone. Then one of them, with the head thrown back, began to blow into a long narrow gourd, producing a plaintive waspish buzz. It was the tune of an old Chagar dance called the Angry Wasp. Ye Khajgari dance qisse shmana Chagar ki ura chiz maga dancing wasp yani raqs zambur amzu bazu amzu zada ra qisse zor mana ra kho Angry Wasp zamburi soxta bache jali chiqdar soxta zambur chiz mekhay. The shrill plaintive hum continued for a long time, now growing in volume. Angry mushana now dying away. Suddenly the tent flap was drawn aside and the dancing girl ran out. Yani او بخالم کی از دیسم زنبور میخواست فرار کنه او تازه فرار کرد از گیر زودگاه ای زنبور گئی بال مور صدایش گئی تام ہے آخرش بایل کی دختر فرار کرده زمینیزو. She ran out and stopped, as if abashed at the sight of the crowd, her sharp young elbows pressed to her sides, her small hands spread outward. She could not have been more than 17. یک دختر 17 ساله. Her gold-tinted, delicate face, makeup كذا, was innocent of kohl, plain paint or whitening. Innocent. Each makeup niya. She had no need of them. It lazim na bada. Ki makeup kada bor munji raqs kana. Her little body was sheathed in colored silks. Libas chi reshmi, blue, yellow, red and green, that gleamed in the slanting rays of the afternoon sun. Khubba mitar raunaqshi bahala diga. Their hot, brilliant colors blending together into the rainbow, darting at the crowd a swift glance of her oblique, glittering eyes veiled with dark eyelashes. She threw off her shoes and sprang nimbly onto the drum straight from where she stood. At the touch of her small feet, the drum emitted an angry growl. یک دفعه پرید بلی امزو کلان دول رقص بلی دول که پالی پایش درو دول میزنه. The trumpeter raised his gourd still higher and his face reddened with exertion. His instrument whined and twanged and snuffled. The girl began to look around in alarm. Somewhere close by, a wasp was circling around her. Baaz muzambura ma dableshi. Alu pareshani nishane mein dekhe, oh, Zambur is coming. Somewhere close by, a wasp was circling around her, threatening to sting her. That angry wasp assailed her everywhere. From the sides, from below, and from above, she beat it off, waving her arms and twisting her body. Her small heels beat over faster. Faster and hotter upon the drum, which responded with a taut, swelling rumble that goaded her on to still more frantic effort. They merged into one, each driving the other. وقت رقاص الدول يقمش هذاك وقت. از بس كده منيز دو ده چیز مورا ده گردش بس एक वक्त ما है कि मोमेंटम पिक मशा बस तो खबर नहीं कि ड्रम इरर दरो मिरक्सन ना या रकास दरो ड्रम मिजना डोल मिजना. Dodging the wasp, the girl fell on her knees, leapt to her feet again, sought the angry wasp among the folds of her garment. Ali wu damani khala ishafta. While the colored silk kept unwinding and unwinding. Ali khu zambur paida karte nahi hai. Ali silky daro phast daro hai. Inji pura aata hai. Inji Hollywood dance situation hai. Bollywood sorry mazrat chahte hain. एक रक्स फिल्म हिंदी आता है. Falling over the drum and now barely covering her slender body. वाह एक पीसी सिल्क ज़बिता है मित्र दरो जान चिरेले दरे या वाह the drum चिस्पिता रही है. When she was unwrapped to the waist, ta kamara ki khali musha, the wasp suddenly darted in from underneath. The dancing girl uttered a shriek and began to spin around like a top on the madly booming drum. Misli ki amo drum al daro bekhi gardish mana. A colored whirlwind burst around her, the last covering, a pink one, fell away, and she stood utterly naked before the crowd. Hazan la libas mawjood. All of a sudden, she quivered from head to foot. Yak dafa da alamat. Her body curved outward, her head fell back, and a long, slow tremor ran through all her body. The wasp had stung her after all. Danga was that. Yak jeer kashida manju. She ran into the tent, followed by the rapturous, lustful roar of the crowd. Ale tamam the joshamda. Crowd was paspazi. And forthwith, a fat, short-legged Persian merchant with a black beard. یک ایرانی تاجر قدریزه ریشسیا a round belly کوره کتا and oily sweetly slumberous bulging eyes انزی ولا چما بابا چیز خیله waddled into the tent after her بان که درار بان که پوری درون خوجا نصرالدین and his companion ای بود تمامی داستان گرنگی الفاظی رزیات خوره کن چونکه all adjectives describing wonderfully هر کس کی بزیره هر لفظی خبر داشته باشه و دمنیم زو سینو لیکن ظاهره ای description همیشه که ما هستین کم adjective چیزی که شمور میگره برحال قصه بلیزی بود که خوجا نصرالدین and his اندوال passed the night in a wretched flea-ridden چایخانه پر از پاشا چایخانه پر پاشا اونمونجی شاور یک رقم تیر کرد and at sunrise the next morning entered Kokand و در صبحگاه در کوکند رسیدن اردویشی. In the course of their progress through the town they met with ever more and more guards of diverse ranks. حالی که در شهر درمایه در هر چک پوستی ناکسته رقم نفرام که ما فلانیم ای فلان افسر ای انزی رنگ والایه who scurried about the streets, squares and alleys and hung around on every corner. هر طرف سیلی سپاهیه در سریزی چوک در سریزی گلی در سریزی بند. Verily there was no work for thieves in Kokand. از این ثابت شد که برای دوزا چندان کاربار نه در کوکند. I wonder what this mob of officials costs the poor townsfolk. Khoja Nasreddin thought. که قدر سپاهی که تو دمنه زی ار کوچه و ار سرک تو استه که ده قدر روپی را بندای خدا سریزن تا چقدر ټیکس خواهد بیده اینا خرچه از نبرداشت چونه. I wonder what this mob of officials یار نفر یک دنه وردی پوشته استه costs the poor townsfolk. این مردمی ده یقینا ټیکس میده دیگه اینا را. Khoja Nasreddin thought, no thieves in 100 years of ceaseless depredation could cause them so much damage. گفت اگر 2100 سال من بلا مخ تبایی نه نکین می ندارو که داره قد زیون فهم خو قد سوٹا سر سڑک استے کدھر جا رہے کیا نام ہے تمہارا شناخت دکھاؤ. No thieves in 100 years of ceaseless depredation ki arsh how duzi kana could cause them so much damage. Ye mardum ra qadar damage na nakin minana. They passed the old madrasa. Ye kona madrasa pesh duter shud the gathering place of the faithful of Kokand ki unji mu'minin jam shud and the stone bridge across the shallow turbulent Sai puli chobi bale daryai Sai and before them opened the principal square with the Khan's palace enclosed within high fortress walls. Rui Burizi was diwalai khayli buland damanezi Qasri Khan Sahiba. Here began the bazaar. و bazaar enem zinji shuru shud. و داستان chapter 9 اسمو دینمینجی استاد میشه.